Far beyond the crowded stars of the Orion Arm, drifting in the deep black, the Inari Arc ship Vale floated like a ghost. Its hull, once gleaming with the artistry and elegance of a proud people, was now scarred and dim, shadows of a civilization, nearly wiped from existence. Captain Veleth stood at the observation deck, eyes closed, breathing in the faint hum of the ship's dying core. The Inari were the forgotten, exiles from history, survivors clinging to memory. "We cannot go on like this," Veleth whispered to herself, fingers brushing the ancient crystal pendant around her neck. A relic of the Inari's lost homeworld. The stars have forgotten us. Our allies turned their eyes away. Only silence remains. In the vast loneliness, she made her choice. The Inari had locked away a secret long ago, a psychic language encoded in patterns of light and sound, a code only their descendants could understand. Now in desperation, Veleth reached out across the void, weaving a message in that forgotten tongue. The signal burst from the ship in waves of shimmering energy, a beacon of hope sent into the darkness. Meanwhile, light years away in Earth's orbit, the hum of the listening array at the UN outpost Omega-9 was steady, boring almost until a ripple shattered the routine. Lieutenant Kira Monroe stared at the console, eyes narrowing. Amid the steady hum of cosmic background noise, a faint pattern flickered, pulsing with an unfamiliar cadence. "Sir, I'm picking up something. It's faint. Almost like a code," she said, voice tight with curiosity. Her commanding officer, Lieutenant Commander Rath, glanced over but shook his head dismissively. "Probably just a solar flare or satellite chatter, Monroe. We're not here to chase ghosts." But Kira's instincts wouldn't let go. She tapped into the frequency, amplifying the signal. The pattern shifted, pulsing like a heartbeat. Too complex to be natural, too deliberate to ignore. "I want a full analysis," she pressed. "This could be something alien." Rath sighed but nodded. "You're the science officer. Fine. Run it." As Kira dove deeper into the signal's layers, her heart quickened. She recognized fragments of the psychic code, the one buried in humanity's archives, the kind that had once been theorized but never confirmed outside Earth's labs. Could it be? She felt a thrill. The signal was a cry for help. Back aboard the Dauntless, Captain Elias Harlan was pacing the bridge. War had etched hard lines on his face, but his eyes remained sharp enough to sense when things didn't add up. When Kira approached with the decoded signal, he barely glanced up. "Alien distress call? Again? We get these every few months." "Usually nothing," Harlan grunted. "Why is this any different?" Kira locked eyes with him. "Because it's old. This pattern, it's from a species believed extinct, the Inari. Their name vanished from the record centuries ago after the Kordax Wars." Harlan stopped pacing. "The Inari? No way they still exist." "Neither did we expect humanity to make it this far," she said quietly. "Maybe we're underestimating what's out there. Maybe it's time we act on it." The silence lingered before Harlan gave a curt nod. "All right. We're going in. But no heroics. We're here to observe and report." Days later, the Dauntless dropped out of warp near the faint blip of the Valai. As they approached, the Inari ship's haunting glow came into view, like a dying star wrapped in swirling colors. The crew gathered on the observation deck, speechless. Kalen, the Inari first officer, greeted the humans with cautious grace. His skin shimmered faintly in hues of sapphire and emerald, an echo of their bioluminescent nature. His voice was soft, but carried weight. "You have heard our call. Why?" Harlan stepped forward, the weight of humanity's history pressing down on him. "Because no one else did. Because sometimes the galaxy forgets the cost of ignoring the weak." Veleth's eyes glistened as she looked upon the humans. "We are remnants, shadows of what we were, our people destroyed by the Kordax. No allies remain. But perhaps you are different." Kira's fingers brushed the crystals glowing on. The Inari walls, murals depicting history, culture, pain. You're not forgotten now. As the Dauntless prepared to escort the valet away from this forsaken stretch of space, a sudden flicker appeared on the radar, a fast-moving drone, scanning them with cold precision. A chill ran down Harlan's spine. "They found us," he said grimly. Veleth's calm cracked for a moment. "The hunters have returned." The crew braced as the distant silence exploded into the first echo of an approaching storm. The Dauntless hummed steadily as it closed the distance to the Inari Arc ship, the Valet. The older vessel seemed almost fragile beside humanity's sleek, military-hardened ship, a relic drifting through time and space, its hull faintly glowing with an otherworldly light. Captain Elias Harlan stood at the bridge's viewport, eyes scanning the approaching silhouette. His jaw tightened. "Keep scanners on full. I don't like that drone that popped up earlier. Could be a scout." Lieutenant Kira Monroe adjusted her console, fingers dancing across holographic displays as she deciphered the Inari's cultural broadcasts, a haunting mix of visual art and psychic echoes. The Inari's history, long erased by galactic powers, unfolded like a tragic symphony. Peace turned to war, betrayal, near annihilation. "This is more than a rescue," she murmured. "It's a chance to restore something lost." Harlan nodded but kept his gaze wary. "Let's hope the galaxy sees it the same way." On the Valet, Captain Veleth paced the dimly lit corridors, her steps echoing softly. Around her, Inari crew moved quietly, shadows of a proud people who had long ceased to believe they would see the stars again. The bioluminescent murals on the walls pulsed faintly, telling stories in colors that only the Inari fully understood. Kalen, her first officer, approached. His skin shimmered faintly in the low light, eyes reflecting the blue glow. "The humans have arrived. They do not carry the arrogance of the conquerors. There is hope." Veleth exhaled, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. "Hope is fragile, Kalen. We cannot afford mistakes." Back on the Dauntless, Kira led a small team in a shuttle to board the Valet. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped into the Inari world. Soft, glowing walls, a faint scent of ozone and something ancient. Kalen greeted them at the entrance, his voice calm but wary. "Welcome, guests of the stars. Your arrival is unexpected." Kira smiled gently. "We received your call. We're here to help." Inside, the human crew was struck by the Inari's culture, delicate crystalline sculptures that seemed alive, with light holographic tapestries showing battles and celebrations long forgotten. The Inari weren't just survivors, they were keepers of a civilization's soul. Suddenly an alarm shattered the calm. Red lights flashed, echoing through the corridors. "Threat detected," Kalen said, eyes narrowing. "Kordax vessels approaching." Harlan's voice crackled through comms. "All hands prepare for possible engagement. Stay sharp." The Kordax, a brutal empire responsible for the Inari's near extinction, had found their prey. On the bridge of the Dauntless, crew scrambled as the IR sensors screamed. The ominous silhouettes of Kordax warships cut through space like predators closing in on wounded prey. "Captain, they're deploying fighters," the tactical officer reported. "We're outgunned and outnumbered." Harlan gritted his teeth. "No retreat. We protect the Valet at all costs." Back aboard the Valet, Veleth's hands trembled slightly as she activated the ship's defense protocols. "We will not go quietly," she declared. "If the Kordax want war, they will find the Inari still breathe." The Inari crew gathered, their latent psionic abilities stirring beneath the surface. Centuries of peace had dulled their power, but survival ignited a spark. Kalen closed his eyes, reaching inward. Slowly, a soft blue glow radiated from his palms, an ancient energy, a last defense. The first wave of Kordax fighters tore through the void, plasma bolts streaking past the Dauntless. Human pilots launched in response, weaving through the assault with desperate skill. In the chaos, a Kordax drone slipped past the shields and fired on the Valet. The Inari hull shuddered, cracks spiderwebbing across glowing crystal panels. "Damage. Report," Veleth demanded. "Secondary systems failing. Shields weakening." Kalen answered grimly. Harlan ordered the Dauntless to move between the attackers and the Valai, drawing fire away. Focus on protecting the Ark ship, he barked. Amid the firefight, Kira and Kalen met near a fractured mural depicting the Inari homeworld, now lost. Your people's history. It's beautiful, Kira said softly. It's hard to believe something so precious almost vanished. Kalen's gaze darkened. We chose peace, but the Kordax chose destruction. We have no allies. None but you. Kira's voice was steady. Not anymore. A sudden explosion rocked the Valle, and Kalen gasped as the psychic glow flared wildly. Stand back, he shouted, raising his hands. Waves of energy pulsed outward, disrupting the Kordax weapon systems nearby. The humans stared in awe, an ancient power awakening after generations of silence. The Kordax commander's voice cut through the comm channels, cold and merciless. You harbor traitors and ghosts. Surrender or be destroyed. Harlan's reply was defiant. The Inari are no ghosts, they're survivors, and we're standing with them. As the battle raged, the Dauntless and Valle fought side by side, human courage and Inari psionics blending in a desperate defense. But the Kordax fleet was relentless, and the price of survival was rising. Velith looked to the stars, heart heavy but unyielding. If we are to survive, we must find allies. Even if the galaxy has forgotten us, humanity will not. The cold void around the Dauntless and the fragile Valle simmered with hostile intent. Kordax warships, massive and black as void itself, emerged from sensor shadows like predators circling wounded prey. Their jagged hulls bore the scars of countless battles, and their presence was a grim reminder of the fate the Inari had narrowly escaped centuries ago. On board the Dauntless, Captain Elias Harlan's hands clenched the railing of the bridge. The weight of command settled heavily on his shoulders. Status report, he barked. Tactical arrays show 5 Kordax cruisers, 2 destroyers, and multiple fighter squadrons, the tactical officer reported, voice taut. Their fleet is larger and better armed than any we've faced in this sector. Lieutenant Kira Monroe's fingers danced nervously over the console. They're moving to cut off our escape vectors. We're trapped. Harlan's jaw tightened. Then we make them regret that. Across the comm channels, a cold, emotionless voice spoke for the Kordax fleet commander. Inari remnants are a blot on our empire's honor. Surrender your ship and your human collaborators or be annihilated. Harlan's reply crackled with defiance. The Inari are not extinct, and we're not your prisoners. Meanwhile, aboard the Valle, Captain Velith stood beside Kalen, her first officer, eyes fixed on the tactical readouts. The Kordax remember us well and hate us more, she murmured. Kalen nodded. They see us as a threat, a blemish, on their rewritten history. They will not stop until every last Inari is erased. Velith's gaze hardened. Then we will make our stand here with humanity. On Earth, news of the renewed conflict reached the United Earth Nations Council in New Geneva. The room buzzed with tense debate. Ambassador Ren Li, a veteran diplomat, addressed the assembly. The Inari's survival is a political powder keg. Supporting them risks war with the Kordax Dominion, a force far beyond our current capacity. Councillor Mara Jensen, known for her fiery populism, countered, We cannot turn our backs on those begging for help. Humanity was born from struggle. Our compassion is our strength. Outside the council chambers, crowds gathered, watching live feeds of the skirmish unfolding in deep space. Civilian volunteers rallied, pledging ships and resources to aid the Dauntless and the Valle. The human spirit, ignited by images of the forgotten race fighting to survive, surged to life. Back in space, Harlan prepared for the inevitable battle. We can't outgun them, he told his officers, but we can outthink them. Kira leaned forward, eyes fixed on the schematics of the Valle. The Inari's psionic abilities are stronger than we thought. If we combine their powers with human technology, we could create a new kind of defense, something the Kordax won't expect. Harlan nodded slowly. It's risky, but it's the best shot we've got. as the Dauntless and Vale slipped through asteroid fields and nebulae to evade Kordak sensors. The first volleys erupted. Plasma beams lanced through the darkness, explosions blooming against starfields like deadly fireworks. Human pilots weaved and ducked, relying on agility and unpredictability against the Kordax's superior firepower. Inari psionics surged, disrupting enemy targeting systems and jamming communications. In a critical moment, Kalen closed his eyes, extending his consciousness. Blue energy radiated from his hands, sending waves of psychic interference that scrambled the Kordax's guidance systems. Fighters spun out of control, crashing into one another. "Keep pushing," Velith urged, but the Kordax fleet commander was relentless, adapting quickly. Deploying elite boarding parties, they launched a terrifying assault on the Dauntless. Explosions rocked the hull as combat teams breached airlocks. In the corridors of the Dauntless, chaos erupted. Crew members fought hand-to-hand with Kordax, Marines, blasters flashing and power fists smashing. Harlan led a counterattack, his military training shining through the chaos. "Hold the line," he shouted. In the midst of battle, Kira found herself face-to-face with a Kordax soldier, tall, cold-eyed, and merciless. She barely dodged a lethal strike, scrambling to deliver a disabling blast. Her heart pounded, but she fought with fierce determination. This isn't just about survival, she thought. It's about what we stand for. On the Vale, Velith and Kalen coordinated their remaining crew, activating long-dormant defense arrays, ancient weapons powered by Inari, psionics and crystal tech. The arrays unleashed waves of energy that tore through Kordax hulls, forcing the enemy fleet to pull back momentarily. But as the dust settled, Harlan knew this was just the beginning. The Kordax would return, stronger and more determined. Gathering his officers, he vowed, "We fight not just to survive, but to remind the galaxy that the forgotten are not dead. Humanity has chosen its side." The fluorescent glow of the United Earth Nations Council chamber cast long shadows over the gathered delegates. The vast hall hummed with a tense silence, punctuated only by the soft murmur of advisors and the occasional cough. Ambassador Renly stood at the podium, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "The Kordax dominion is not a minor threat," she declared, eyes scanning the chamber. "Engaging them on behalf of the Inari risks a war Earth is not prepared to fight. We must weigh our choices carefully." Counselor Mara Jensen, her fiery auburn hair unmistakable, rose from her seat with a spark in her eyes. "We are the ones who have been forgotten for too long. Earth's own history is written in the blood of those who refuse to turn away from suffering. If we abandon the Inari, we betray that legacy." The debate escalated. Voices clashed like thunder, cautious pragmatists warning of the cost, passionate idealists demanding action. Meanwhile, live feeds from the distant battle in space played silently on giant holoscreens, showing flickering images of the Dauntless and the Vale under fire, human pilots weaving through plasma bolts, Inari psychic energy shimmering like ethereal flames. Outside the chambers, the city was alive with a different energy. Crowds gathered in plazas and around public screens, watching the unfolding conflict with rapt attention. Social media exploded with calls to support the Inari, calls to stand alongside the forgotten survivors. Among them was Jace Moreno, a former pilot turned activist, who stood on a makeshift platform, rallying the crowd. "This is our chance to show what humanity truly is, not just a species fighting for itself, but a species standing for others." Volunteers began arriving in droves at spaceports across the globe. Civilians brought their ships, engineers offered their expertise, and retired soldiers returned to duty. The movement grew, fueled by hope and outrage. Back aboard the Dauntless, Captain Harlan monitored the political situation with growing frustration. "They debate while we fight," he muttered. "If the Council won't act, we'll make them." Kira, Monroe was equally determined. "The people want to help, we can't ignore that." Harlan's eyes hardened. "We're going to send a message, a broadcast, direct from the front lines. The truth of this war, no filters, no politics." In a secure communications room, Kira prepared the transmission. Her fingers hesitated over the console, then pressed send. The broadcast rippled across Earth, reaching millions in seconds. The feed showed raw footage, human pilots risking their lives, Inari psionics disrupting enemy ships, the fragile beauty of the Valle glowing against the dark void. Voices from the front line spoke candidly. Fear, hope, defiance. The message was clear. This was no distant war. It was a fight for survival, for honor, and for a forgotten race. Reactions were immediate and electric. News anchors debated fiercely, but the public response was overwhelming. Pro-Inari protests swelled with chants of "Stand with the Forgotten" filling city streets. The UEN Council scrambled to respond. Ambassador Ren Li called for emergency sessions, while Councillor Jensen's faction gained influence. The political tide was turning fast. Meanwhile, in the quiet corners of the Inari ship, Captain Veleth watched the broadcast from a small viewing chamber. A faint smile touched her lips. Humanity is unpredictable, she mused to Kalen. Where others saw weakness, they see strength. Perhaps we have found our allies at last. Kalen nodded slowly. But trust is fragile. We must prove ourselves worthy of it. The Kordax commander seethed as he received reports from the battlefield. The unexpected resilience of the humans, their refusal to surrender the Inari, frustrated him beyond measure. They have no place in this war, he snarled. Crush them all. His fleet gathered once more, dark ships converging like vultures. Back on Earth, the movement to aid the Inari transformed from grassroots to organized militias, equipped and ready to deploy. The Dauntless received messages of support and offers of reinforcements. Captain Harlan looked at Kira, a grim smile on his face. We're no longer just defending one ship. We're standing for something bigger. Kira's eyes shone with resolve. Then let's give them a reason to believe. As the political storm brewed and the galaxy's forgotten cried out, humanity faced a crossroads. Turn away from the shadows or step boldly into the light. The void outside the Dauntless crackled with deadly energy. The Kordax fleet, angered by their stalled assault, unleashed a new wave of fury. Their warships formed a menacing phalanx, plasma bolts tearing through the dark like violent storms. Captain Elias Harlan stood firm on the bridge, eyes locked on the tactical display. Around him, crew members moved with precision born of countless drills. But tension thickened the air like smoke. Shields holding at 60%, the tactical officer reported. Kordax fighters swarming, closing in fast. Evasive. Maneuvers. Bring every gun to bear, Harlan ordered. Protect the Valle at all costs. Inside the Valle, Captain Veleth and Kalen coordinated the Inari's last defenses. The ship groaned under the strain of repeated hits. The ancient crystal panels shimmered with psychic energy as they fortified the shields. Kalen, can we hold them off much longer? Veleth asked, voice steady despite the urgency. Kalen's glowing eyes reflected the blue light of his powers. We can, but not without help. The humans' technology gives us an edge, but the Kordax will adapt. Veleth nodded. Then we fight smarter. Lieutenant Kira Monroe prepared for her next sortie. Clad in her pilot suit, she ran final checks on her fighter. The cockpit screens flickered with incoming threat data, but her focus was unwavering. Her co-pilot and longtime friend Jace Moreno climbed in beside her. Ready to dance with the devils again? Kira smirked. Always. The fighters launched into the fray like a swarm of silver hornets. Kira's ship danced through streams of fire and debris, weaving between enemy blasts. The roar of engines and crackle of weapons filled her ears, adrenaline pumping fierce and sharp. Ahead, a squadron of Kordax fighters bore down on a group of human ships escorting the Valle. On me, Kira called, banking hard and unleashing a volley of disruptor pulses. The enemy ships faltered, their formations breaking. Back on the Dauntless, Harlan watched the battle unfold. The strain was visible in his tired eyes, but he never wavered. Kira, status? Engaged and holding, she replied. But the Kordax are relentless. They're testing our limits. Harlan's voice was low but fierce. We'll meet every challenge. We've come too far to fall now. Suddenly, the Dauntless shook violently as an explosion rocked the aft section. The tactical officer shouted, "Kordax boarding parties have breached the outer hull." Harlan's hand went to his comm. "All hands, prepare for boarding defense. Don't let them take our ship." In the corridors, human and Kordax soldiers clashed in brutal close quarters. Blaster fire echoed, sparks flew as power fists met. Armor. Kira, helmet off, fought side by side with Marines, her pilot agility giving her an edge in the chaotic melee. She downed enemies with precise shots and quick strikes. This is what we fight for, she thought, ducking behind cover to reload. Meanwhile, Kalen and Velith focused their powers to strengthen the ship's core. Waves of psionic energy pulsed outward, disrupting Kordax electronics and causing nearby enemy ships to falter. "Hold them," Velith urged, "for our people and humanity." The battle reached a crescendo. Kira and Jace led a daring counterattack, blasting through enemy ranks to reach the Kordax command ship's boarding shuttles. "Destroy those ships, or we lose the edge," Jace yelled. Kira nodded, firing missile salvos that detonated with spectacular bursts, sending enemy shuttles spinning into the void. On the bridge, Harlan saw the tide turn. The Kordax began retreating, their forces fractured and battered. "Press the advantage," he commanded. "Show them we're not just survivors. We're a force to be reckoned with." As silence returned to the battlefield, the Dauntless and Vale hovered side by side, scarred but unbroken. Kira exhaled deeply, adrenaline fading. She looked to the stars, knowing this was just the beginning. Captain Harlan approached, his face softened by rare warmth. "You did well out there." Kira smiled faintly. "We all did. But the war isn't over." Velith's voice crackled through the comms. "Thank you, humanity. Together we kindle the flames of hope." Above Earth, the movement to aid the Inari swelled further. Humanity's courage, now proven in battle, inspired millions. The galaxy was watching, no longer silent. The Dauntless hummed quietly in the calm after the storm, its battered hull glinting faintly under distant stars. The fierce battle with the Kordax had left scars, both on the ship and its crew, but it had also forged a new resolve. Captain Elias Harlan moved through the corridors, checking on his team. The medbay was busy, treating injuries both small and severe. Marines nursed bruised ribs. Pilots wiped blood from scraped faces, but spirits were high. Survival against the Kordax had been a victory in itself. In the briefing room, Kira Monroe sat across from Kalen, the Inari first officer. Their faces reflected the soft blue glow of the holographic star map between them. "We wouldn't have made it without your psionic support," Kira said, eyes sincere. Kalen inclined his head, a faint shimmer of light playing across his skin. "And we owe our lives to your technology and courage. Our strengths are complementary." A comfortable silence stretched between them, the unspoken acknowledgement of a new alliance, one born not just of necessity, but of trust. Elsewhere on me. The ship, Velith, paced in her quarters, staring at the faintly glowing Inari symbol etched into the wall. The centuries of exile, the loss of worlds and kin, it all pressed heavily on her. Yet now, with humanity's aid, hope sparked anew. Her comm buzzed softly. "Captain Velith, the Human Council has sent new messages of support and resources," Kalen reported. Velith's expression softened. "The galaxy listens at last." In the common area, Jace Moreno and a group of new volunteers pored over ship schematics. The movement on Earth had grown rapidly, fueled by broadcasts from the front lines. Thousands volunteered daily, bringing ships, skills, and hope. Jace paused, glancing out the viewport at the distant stars. "I never imagined we'd be part of something like this, fighting for a lost race, standing against an empire." One volunteer, a young engineer, smiled. "It's more than that. It's about what kind of species we want to be." Later, as the Dauntless and Vale prepared for their next move, Harlan gathered his officers. "We've bought ourselves time," he said grimly. "But the Kordax won't give up. We need allies. Real ones." Kira nodded. "There are other races out there. Some have reasons to resent the Kordax. We should reach out." Velith added, Trust will be difficult. We carry centuries of fear and loss. But humanity's stand gives us hope. As negotiations began, a quieter battle unfolded. Among the crew, friendships deepened across cultural divides. Kira and Kalen trained together, blending human tactics with Inari psionic drills. Jace mentored new recruits, instilling the same fierce determination that had saved them all. Velith observed this growing unity with cautious optimism. Our peoples were once enemies. Now we fight as one. One evening, as the ship drifted near a neutral space station, Kira and Kalen found a moment alone. Do you ever wonder what it would be like if the Inari had allies before? Kira asked quietly. Kalen's eyes dimmed slightly. We were forgotten, left to fade into history. But you, humanity, have changed that. You chose to stand when no one else would. Kira smiled softly. We fight because we believe in second chances, for you, for all of us. Their hands brushed briefly, a simple gesture, but one heavy with meaning. Suddenly alarms blared. The Dauntless shuddered violently. Unknown vessel approaching at high speed, the tactical officer shouted. Harlan rushed to the bridge, heart pounding. The scanner revealed a sleek, unfamiliar ship, fast, heavily armed, but neutral in design. The comm crackled. A calm, authoritative voice spoke. This is Ambassador Terran of the Velkari Coalition. We come in peace, and with a proposal. The Velkari were a reclusive but powerful race, known for their advanced technology and strict neutrality. Their arrival marked a potential turning point in the conflict. Harlan exchanged a glance with Velith and Kira. The fragile alliance they had built might soon grow stronger, or shatter under new pressures. As the Dauntless opened communications, hope mingled with uncertainty. The fight was far from over, but the bonds forged in fire were ready to face whatever came next. The sleek Velkari ship glided alongside the Dauntless with an almost liquid grace, its smooth hull reflecting distant stars. The bridge crew watched silently as Ambassador Terran's vessel broadcasted its presence and credentials. Captain Elias. Harlan tightened his grip on the console. The Velkari were known across the galaxy as master diplomats and technologists, but their reputation for ruthless pragmatism preceded them. Their arrival was both a beacon of hope and a cause for caution. Ambassador. Terran's visage appeared on the main screen, tall, angular features framed by shimmering silvery blue skin. Her eyes held a cool intelligence, calculating yet unreadable. Captain Harlan, Captain Velith, Lieutenant Monroe, she began, voice smooth and measured. The Velkari Coalition has observed the growing conflict with great concern. The Codex, Dominion threatens the stability of this sector, and by extension our interests. She paused, eyes locking with Harlan's. We propose a coalition. The Velkari will provide advanced technology and strategic support to aid your defense, and in return we seek a seat at the council that will govern this region post-conflict. The room buzzed with tension. Velith exchanged a wary glance with Kalen while Kira leaned forward, curious but guarded. Harlan's voice was firm. Your offer is welcome, Ambassador, but we need assurances that your involvement won't come at the cost of Inari sovereignty. Terran's lips curled in a faint, enigmatic smile. The Velkari value stability and cooperation. We seek neither conquest nor subjugation. Our goal is a balanced peace. Back on Earth, news of the Velkari's involvement stirred both hope and unease. Some hailed it as the turning point in the war. Others feared a new form of dominance replacing the old. Counselor Mara Jensen spoke passionately in the UEN chambers. The Velkari bring power and influence, but we must ensure humanity retains its independence and protects the Inari fully. Ambassador Ren Li cautioned diplomacy. We tread a fine line. The Velkari's support could deter the Codex, but could also entangle us in deeper politics. Meanwhile, aboard the Dauntless, Kira and Kalen reviewed the new Velkari technology, ships, weapon systems, and psionic amplifiers that promised to turn the tide. Kira felt a mixture of excitement and unease. This tech could save lives, but it's unlike anything we've seen. We'll need to learn quickly. Kalen nodded. Our peoples must learn to trust again, not only each other, but those who offer aid. The Velkari ambassador invited the Dauntless and Valet crews to a joint strategy session aboard their ship, a gleaming palace of technology and elegance. In the Grand War Room, holographic star maps floated above sleek consoles. Terran outlined a bold plan, a coordinated strike against key Kordak supply lines, aiming to cripple their ability to wage war. Our intelligence shows vulnerabilities we can exploit, she explained. But timing and precision are critical. Harlan listened intently. We're ready to fight, if this means protecting the Inari and humanity's future. As discussions continued late into the cycle, Kira pulled aside Kalen. Do you trust them? She asked quietly. Kalen's gaze was steady. Trust is earned, not given. We must be vigilant, but also open. This war demands unity. Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared red. Incoming Kordak's fleet, larger than before, and warships are deploying boarding pods, the tactical officer warned. Terran's expression hardened. They strike sooner than expected. We must act now. Harlan's voice rang clear. All hands prepare for battle. This fight is far from over. The Dauntless, Valai, and Velkari ships surged forward, their combined forces a testament to newfound alliances. The stars blazed with laser fire and energy pulses as the Kordak's fleet attacked with brutal determination. Human pilots, Inari psionics, and Velkari technology blended in a symphony of war, a chaotic, deadly dance where every move counted. In the heat of battle, Harlan found himself side by side with Ambassador Terran, their partnership tested in the crucible of war. She glanced at him, voice calm despite the chaos. Your courage is commendable, Captain. Together, we may yet change the fate of this sector. Harlan nodded. Then let's make sure the forgotten are never forgotten again. As the tide of battle turned with the Velkari's aid, the Kordaks retreated, their losses heavy. But Harlan knew this was only the beginning of a longer war, one that would test their alliance, their resolve, and the very meaning of unity. The aftermath of the battle left the void scarred with drifting wreckage and silent echoes of a war that had tested the limits of endurance. The Dauntless, battered but unbowed, sailed alongside the gleaming Velkari and Inari ships, a symbol of fragile but growing unity. Captain Elias Harlan stood on the bridge, watching as distant stars shimmered through reinforced viewports. Around him, the crew moved with a renewed sense of purpose, one born of victory but tempered by the cost. Status report, Harlan said, his voice calm but commanding. Tactical systems fully operational, the officer replied. Velkari, technology proved decisive. Enemy supply lines are shattered, Kordak's forces in retreat. Kira Monroe, standing nearby, allowed herself a brief smile. They won't be able to regroup for a long time. But even as hope bloomed, the captain's eyes remained thoughtful. This is more than a battle won. It's a turning point, but the galaxy will never be the same. In the ship's common room, Ambassador Terran addressed a gathering of Inari, human, and Velkari officers. The coalition we forged here is proof that even the most unlikely alliances can endure, she said. The Kordak's dominion underestimated our strength, not just in weapons but in unity. Velith stepped forward, her voice steady and filled with quiet pride. For centuries, my people were forgotten, cast aside and hunted. Today, thanks to humanity, we rise, not alone but as allies. Applause filled the room, but beneath the celebration was a shared understanding. Peace would require vigilance. Back on Earth, the United Earth Nations Council convened once more. Ambassador Ren Li and Councilor Mara Jensen stood united in the Yao chamber, a rare sight. The Velkari Coalition's support has shifted the balance, Li acknowledged, but we must ensure Earth's leadership remains firm, protecting our interests and those of our new allies. Jensen nodded, her voice passionate. Humanity has proven itself a beacon of hope. We must lead with honor and strength. Meanwhile, Kira and Kalen trained together on the Valet's deck, their bond emblematic of the new era. Do you think the Inari will ever fully trust others again? Kira asked softly. Kaelin looked to the stars. Trust is a seed that takes time to grow. But with you, with humanity, it has found fertile ground. Their hands brushed once more, a silent promise of partnership, not just between two individuals, but between entire species. As the coalition worked to rebuild, new challenges emerged. Scouts reported Kordak's remnants rallying in distant sectors, and whispers of other alien races watching the conflict with interest. Captain Harlan addressed his crew, determination burning in his gaze. We have shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of, not just survival but leadership. We will stand guard over this new dawn. Kira stepped forward. And when the darkness returns, we'll face it together. In the quiet moments that followed, Velith stood beside the captain, looking out into the endless expanse. Our peoples were once lost, she said softly. But now, we chart a course together. Harlan nodded. The forgotten have allies, and together, we will write the next chapter of the stars. The stars beyond gleamed brighter that night, as if bearing witness to a new beginning. A dawn where humanity's courage and compassion had carved a place among the cosmos, a legacy born from the forgotten and carried forward by those who dared to stand.